Hey, it's Miss Lauren, the OT here. I am here today to talk to you about holding scissors and cutting. So, so the first thing I want to talk about is how to hold your scissors. So here are my scissors that I'm using right now. If you notice, one hole is smaller and one hole is bigger. So your scissors might be the same, so that there's one hole that's small and one hole that's big. Or your scissors might have two holes that are the same size. So if they're the same size, you don't really have to worry about which one goes up and which one goes down. But if your scissors have a hole that is big and a hole that is small, you want to make sure that the hole that is small is up, okay? And then you also want to make sure that the blade of the scissors is pointing away from you. So scissors are not a toy. We always want to make sure that we are very careful when we're using scissors and we don't wave them around. We only use them to cut, and then we put them back down. And we want to make sure that we keep them closed. So squeeze them together, make sure that they're closed, and put them down when you're not using them, because they are not something that we play with. They're just a tool for cutting. Okay, and then we also want to make sure that when our little hole's up, big hole's down, blade is pointing away from us, we take our thumb. So if you can do thumbs up, this is your thumb. You're going to put this in the top hole, the little hole, and then your fingers in the bottom hole. And if your holes are the same size, you might only be able to fit one finger in the bottom, and that's okay. But if you have a bigger hole on the bottom, you can try to fit a few fingers in, and that'll help you to control it a little bit better. So small hole up, big hole down, thumb in the top, fingers in the bottom, and then we want to try to keep our elbow as tight against our body as we can. Okay? Okay, so here are my scissors again. I have my little hole, my big hole. And right now the blade is facing towards me, so I want to turn them around, make sure that the blade is facing away from me. And I'm going to turn them so that the little hole is on top. Okay, and I use my right hand to draw and to color. So I'm going to put my right hand, or my right thumb, here's my thumbs up. I'm going to put my right thumb in the top hole and my fingers in the bottom hole. Okay? And then my left hand, which is my helping hand, is going to hold whatever I'm cutting. So this is my octopus that I made the other day, and I'm going to cut another arm. So I'm going to pinch the bottom, near the bottom where I'm cutting, and I want to make sure to keep my finger and my thumb right over top of each other so that I know where my fingers are. I have to be careful not to cut my fingers. So I'm going to put my scissors near my fingers, but not next to them. And if you're holding something a little bit bigger, it'll be easier. But you want to make sure that you pinch it tight. And if you use your thumb up on your left hand or your helping hand, also, it's a little bit easier than if you hold it with your fingers up. So I like to hold it thumbs up. So thumbs up on both my scissor hand and my helping hand. And I line it up to where I want to cut. And then squeeze my scissor hand. And that makes a cut. Now I'm going to show you cutting on a line. Okay, so when we're cutting on a line, same thing, we want to use our helping hand. And if you color with your left hand, you would be using your left thumb on top and your left fingers in the bottom. As long as you are comfortable and you use whichever one feels more right for you, that's okay. So if you use your left hand to color, then you're going to use your right hand as your helping hand to hold the paper. Okay? So when we cut, along a line, we want to make sure that we pinch the paper with our helping hand. We don't want to pinch on the line. We pinch near the line, or we can pinch on the side. And then we get our scissors ready with our thumb in the little hole, fingers in the big hole. Then we open our scissors. We line them up to where we want to cut. In this case, it would be the line. And when we line them up, that means that our blade is right over top of where we want to cut. So once we have it lined up, we squeeze the scissors closed. Then we open them. We move the paper a little bit closer, or if you need to move the scissors a little bit, that's okay too. So we move, squeeze, and it cuts. All right, so I'm going to show that to you one more time. I'm going to make a long line here. Okay. So I pinch the paper with my helping hand. I've got my scissors here. My thumb goes in the little hole, and my fingers go in the big hole, and the blade goes away from my body. I open the scissors, line them up, and squeeze. Then I open them again. I line them up to where I want them. So I move them, and I squeeze. And I can always move my helping hand if I need to be in a better position. Usually, if your helping hand is about the same place that your scissor hand is, the same place, because if you hold far away, it gets a little bit harder to control. So you want them to be about the same level. Okay, so I pinch with my helping hand. I open my scissors, move them, and squeeze. There we go. So that is cutting a straight line. Now we're going to cut a circle. So again, I want to pinch the paper with my helping hand. And I got my thumb up, fingers on the bottom, elbow in tight, and got my blade pointing away. So I'm going to cut to the line, and then I'm going to keep cutting on the line. So I line up my scissors. Well, first I open them, then I line them up to where I want them to cut, and then I squeeze. And if I'm cutting a circle, I'm going to try to turn the paper as I cut. So squeeze and turn at the same time. Okay. I'm going to reposition here. So I squeeze my paper, or I pinch my paper, open my scissors, line them up, and then squeeze as I turn. Open, move, squeeze. And if you notice, I'm not really moving my scissors very much. They're kind of staying right in the same place, which is why if we keep our elbow tight and close to our body, it'll be easier to stabilize them, to keep them still. So I pinch my paper, I open my scissors, line them up, and then squeeze as I turn. Open, line them up, and squeeze. And there's a circle. Okay, and now I'm going to do a square. So I pinch my paper, and I cut to the line, and then on the line. And when I get to a corner, I'm going to turn the paper so that I'm still cutting away from my body. I'm going to open the scissors, line them up, make sure that the blade is where I want it to be. So it's between these two sides of the paper. I line it up, and I squeeze. Turn, open, line it up, and squeeze. Open, line it up, and squeeze. And there I have a square. And it's the same idea for a triangle. You're going to cut to the line and then on the line. And if you're doing something that has to be very precise, you want to try not to cut too much further over the line. You want to try to squeeze just enough to get to the end of the line. And then turn the paper, open, line it up, and squeeze. My triangle happens to be just the right size for my scissors, so I don't have to worry about stopping early. Okay, open, line it up, and squeeze. And there's a triangle. So now I'm going to show you, this is a little bit trickier. And this is, if you're maybe 4 or 5 years old, this might be a little too tricky for you to try, but you can give it a try if you want. Usually it's for older kids, like 6 or 7. But we're going to try to cut something like this. Okay? So I'm going to pinch my paper, and then I'm going to cut to the edge and then around on the lines, or on the edge of it, really. Okay, so again, open, move, and squeeze. And I'm going to move the paper with my helping hand as I squeeze. You want to squeeze slow and steady. Okay, open, move, and then squeeze slow and steady so that I can turn the paper to follow the shape while I cut. Okay, and you have to go really slow and really steady if you have something that has a lot of details. And again, my scissors are really pretty much staying still. I'm just using my helping hand to move the paper so that where I want to cut is always right where my blade is. Slow and steady. Okay, and if you have a lot of extra part, you can just snip that off if it gets to be a lot. Okay, so pinch, open, move, and squeeze. And when you're cutting out something that's a little tricky like this, you really need to be careful about squeezing slow and steady so that you can move the paper as you turn or as you squeeze. And that is how you cut. And it takes a lot of practice to get it right. So don't be worried or don't be discouraged if you try and it doesn't end up exactly as you want it to. I have had a lot of practice cutting, and I definitely don't expect any of you to get this right the first time trying. Probably not even the second or third or fourth or anything like that. It just takes trying again. Okay, so that is cutting. So one thing that I also want to say is that if you're having a hard time keeping your thumbs up when you cut and you kind of reach your elbow all the way around and kind of have to struggle to get your scissors where you want them, something you can do is you can take really anything. You can take a toy, you can take a book, anything that will fit between your body and your elbow, and you're going to try to hold it next to your body like that while you cut. So that way you have to keep your elbow down. And that way you can cut and you'll have the reminder to keep your elbow down while you move your helping hand to move the paper. Okay, I hope those were some helpful tricks and tips for cutting, and I'll see you guys next time.